Dr. Dicianno, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
I want to tell you a little bit about some of the people viewing us today so you kind of know our audience. Those that have joined us can be from a person living an active seated life to a care partner caring for someone, engineers, clinicians from all disciplines, and then just those that are all about the innovation. So we have a quite broad spectrum of those viewing us. So let's start with a definition. What is assistive technology?
Well, assistive technology has a really broad definition. It really can be any item, device, or even software, and it's generally used by the person with the disability or by a caregiver, and or both. And I like to think of it also as something that either promotes independence or empowers people to carry out activities in their daily lives.
So with that, it could be a little bit of everything. So that's where the research and the innovation really comes into play, because I know just a few of the devices I've used, they can be adapted and customized. So it really is a broad definition, but that helped a lot. Things that help with independence. That really simplifies it. So what drew you into the field of assisted technology?
Well, my roots really go all the way back to the 90s when I was a college student and early medical student. I did a lot of volunteer work with organizations that ran summer camps for kids with disabilities. And I spent a lot of time really just seeing how technology could be a barrier to carrying out what we wanted to do with the kids, or a facilitator, and really empowered us to be able to do activities with the children. And I became really interested in working with people with disabilities and how technology could be integrated into the field back then.
We have that in common. I worked at a camp, but we had adults, children. It was a big variety. And I thought I was this cool new grad coming out of school and I knew a lot. But then you go to take somebody from a wheelchair to a canoe, and it's a whole new learning curve. And the campers taught me how to be a better clinician. So I think that's neat that that's where you got your roots and your drive to, because it's a whole different world than all the great stuff that we learn in school. So do you have a specific, like my canoe story, do you have a specific memory of camp?
Sure, so many memories, but I think you bring up a good point that, it's all about being creative. And sometimes it takes a team of people to be creative to overcome obstacles and solve problems that you're trying to solve. And so I think seating and mobility, seating and positioning especially, was a good example that came up a lot during summer camp. So whether it's, like you said, getting out into a canoe or a boat, but also just seating and positioning to be able to sit all day and participate in activities without getting, a pressure injury of the skin. Or what do you do when you're out of your wheelchair? There were so many activities that we did, which were like poolside, or just having to shower, or riding a horse. How do you position somebody when you're out of the wheelchair, which is your primary means of support? And there were so many creative things that, we had to come up with. And that's what really drew me to seating and mobility as a field, because it taps into that creativity and teamwork that we need to overcome those problems.
So true. And the end game, it didn't matter how we got there, that person was going to experience that activity they wanted to experience. And that's the same way in life. We want everyone to live that active life, whether they're seated or not. So yes, very good points. Let's go dive into your work. And I know there's kind of three parts, and I love how they all work together. So let's start with research.
Sure. So we have a large research facility. It's called the Human Engineering Research Laboratories, or HERL, HERL. And it's a joint venture between the VA Pittsburgh healthcare system, UPMC, and the University of Pittsburgh. And this is where we do all the research and development of technologies, many of which, are out there on the market. They're products that people have used every day, They may not realize where they came from, but there's a lot of assistive technologies that have come from Hurl. And our mission is really to improve the mobility and function of people with disabilities, with the end goal that they can participate in society. And we do that through medical rehabilitation and advanced engineering research.
When you're doing the trial and error with the research, do you have human components? I mean, people that come in and try different things. How does it look for somebody that hasn't been there?
We used an approach called PADE, P-A-D-E, which is participatory action design engineering, and that's very person-centered. And it's related to the mantra, nothing about us without us, right? Every stage or step of research should involve the ultimate end users, whether that end user is a person with a disability, a caregiver, a clinician, or whoever it might be. So the way that we do that is we really generate ideas from people themselves, people who participate in our research. We have large survey studies, we have focus groups, we get ideas from prior research projects, from other partners in the field who partner with us to help solve their problems. Or we may generate ideas right from our clinic themselves. You know, we see patients every day who come in who need technologies, and we generate ideas that way. So we take those ideas, we come up with an initial prototype, and then we ask the potential end users to evaluate that prototype, you know, and what we want to do is come up with a concept that then is refined enough that it can be actually tested. So that process is iterative. We might do it over and over until we get a prototype or design concept that really can be tested. And then we'll test it in different ways. We'll test usability or accessibility or feasibility to be used in a certain environment. Let's say it needs to be used in a person's home, or it needs to be used in a long-term care facility. We might have a trial to test whether it's actually feasible to implement. And then once we have this proof of concept and it's advanced enough that it's more like a final product, then we'll do what we call standards testing. So there's many standards that are international standards for safety and durability. And oftentimes we want to make sure that those products meet those safety standards. Think of it almost like wheelchair crash testing, right? And then ultimately we can translate those products out onto the market by partnering with different companies. And those products become really available to clients to use in everyday life. And then that starts the whole cycle over again.
That's perfect. Because if I am an end user, I want to know that you've gone through all those steps. You've put me first. You've put safety in there. I love that you put safety in there. So it's not just, hey, let's see if this works. Is it going to work? And is it safe on top of that? I love that process. And I think thinking it all the way through like that, it's not just, hey, get it out the door. It's, is this going to really make somebody's life better? And like you said in the beginning, help with the independence. So that's great. So then after the research, and Callaghan's teaching me a lot about how this process works. I'm watching how the orbiter got started, the cushion. And let's switch gears a little bit on that same thread, but talk to us about the UPMC, Center for Assistive Technology.
Sure. So just like we have the research side at the Human Engineering Research Laboratories, we also have the clinical side where a patient, or we would call them a client, comes in to be evaluated for assistive technologies. So this is really a multidisciplinary center where we have a variety of different people who will work with them. So they will come in, they may work with a physician like myself. We have physiatrists. We also have a physician assistant. We have physical and occupational therapists, speech language pathologists, rehab engineers. We have an audiologist, and we even have the individuals who work with the various supplier companies where we would source the products. And depending on the person's need, we will assemble the team of experts that are necessary for their evaluation, and we'll all work together. And people will come in for a variety of different technologies. They may come in for seating and mobility. So it might be a new wheelchair or wheel mobility device, or it might be a problem with their seating. Let's say they're getting a pressure injury of the skin, and we need to assess, their positioning and optimize their pressure distribution and their seating. It might be adaptive driving, to be assessed for whether they can drive a vehicle or what modifications to a vehicle might be needed. We have assisted listening, so audiology devices, assistive technologies for those with problems with hearing. We have computer access and environmental control. So if somebody needs to be able to use a computer by having certain software or hardware, or even adaptive gaming or environmental control using smart devices that might be throughout your home. And then also augmentative and alternative communication. So this is generally speech generating devices that people will use to help them communicate. So we do all those types of evaluations at the center, and we help people choose the right type of device for them, trial them, give them information about them, make sure that they're custom fit for that individual, and then also help them with procurement. So there's lots to think about when it comes to funding and procuring devices, and we have experts that understand all of that process.
So if someone wanted to be a part of that, is there a sign up? Do they need to just be local to your area?
So we're a clinic just like any other outpatient clinic. So folks can just contact us to be seen. We do see folks, from all over. There are other clinics throughout the country. Ours is a bit unique because it's quite large. We do a lot of different types of assistive technologies, and we also have the physiatrist or rehab doctor embedded like right on site working
That is
with.
very unique. Very.
There's not that many sites that do it that way.
But it's smart, and you're taking care of the whole person, like you said, by having everybody there in one site. That's amazing. I think this would be a good spot to kind of stop and let people put some questions in the question box. We're going to get to those at the end, but this is a good place for them to put those in. And also at the end, I'll put some information on how to contact you, and not you personally, but the whole clinic. So I'll put that in there too. So we've talked a lot about innovation and research. I love it. And the clinic. Is there anything new on the horizon for your team?
Sure. One thing I'm really excited about is our new Patient Innovation Experience Center. We call it Assist Plus, and this will be opening this year in 2023. We have a new tower that we're building next to UPMC Mercy Hospital downtown, and it's the Vision and Rehabilitation Tower. So this is where all of our specialized services for rehabilitation, outpatient services. So that would include physiatry and therapy services, and also services for people with low vision and blindness, as well as research related to those areas, will be all located in this brand new state-of-the-art facility. And we'll have a new patient experience center in this building. And this is an area that allows us to explore and connect people with different types of technologies that they may not encounter in other locations. So it's different than what we do at the Center for Assistive Technology, where I would say we focus a lot on complex rehabilitation technology at CAT. At our new center, Assist Plus, we'll be connecting people with digital technologies like smartphone applications, adaptive clothing, adaptive utensils, disability advocacy materials. So a variety of other types of technologies that can really help them in their everyday lives, things that they might also encounter during their rehabilitation, but they don't know how to acquire those technologies, or they don't know how to be evaluated for them properly. And we'll have a rehabilitation engineer who's specifically trained to evaluate people for those types of devices, and also help them find out how to procure the ones that meet their needs.
Wow. Well, I was already impressed, but the expansion sounds amazing and right up my alley. I love assisted dining and doing things that help with people being able to eat and eating is such a social thing. So, and then the low vision. So you were speaking our language here, as our viewers are going to be very excited to hear that. Sometimes we hear about barriers that people have with getting assistive technology or just knowing what's out there as an option. What barriers do you see come through, and then maybe some ways to overcome them?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of barriers that people experience with getting the right assistive technologies. I like to think about the whole process of assistive technology provision. It starts with being evaluated. Some people just go out and purchase things on their own, without being properly evaluated for assistive technologies. And that's important for so many different reasons. But the ability to access that evaluation and be evaluated properly is the first step. Then it comes to the device itself that you're using. We want to make sure that the device is usable and accessible for the person. There's plenty of devices out there that you can source that may not be accessible for certain people. And then there's the ongoing customization and fit and maintenance and repair of those devices. We want to make sure that they continue to remain usable for people, and that they're actually integrating them into their lives. And so I think that there's a whole lot of steps in the process where we need to think about matching people with the right types of technologies. And there can be problems all along the way, which is why you really need to have somebody who's really experienced as a clinician to help walk them through the process and make sure that they're matched to the right technology appropriately.
And I'm really hoping that there are a lot of clinicians viewing today so that they can learn more, find out more, and be that go-to person to help somebody, because some things are really expensive too, and you don't want the wrong thing, and that that money was put there versus the right thing that the resources could have been put towards. So very good points. So if there's somebody like you when you were at camp, or me, and they're thinking, what, I'm passionate about this, but I don't know what to do next, what advice would you give them?
Well, I would say we need more assistive technology professionals in the field, whether it be physicians, therapists, people who work in industry, people who go into engineering fields, researchers, educators. The assistive technology touches so many different areas. So if it's an interest of yours, there's definitely a way to integrate it into, whatever field that you're interested in. So I would really encourage people to pursue that, because the need is there. We have people with lots of assistive technology needs, and we need those people to help them. I would say that the field is very team-based, very team focused. And if you're somebody who really enjoys working in that sort of environment, and most of us in rehabilitation do, we're drawn to that. We are kind of at heart team players. Assistive technology is a great field to get into. And if you're somebody who likes to be creative and think outside the box, that's also a great field for you, because you'll never have any two situations be the same. I've been working in the clinic for, over 15 years, and it never amazes me that I'll still, get a case that is difficult and presents accessibility challenges that we've never seen before. People's homes are so different and their lives are so different. And we always have to be creative to come up with solutions to meet people's needs. And I love that. And I think if you're that type of person that enjoys that type of thought process, you would, enjoy this field. There's so many different, degrees and pathways that you can get. If you're a clinician, there is something called an assistive technology professional certification, that's offered by RESNA. This is also available to those who work in industry as suppliers. So that may be something that folks may be interested in and pursuing, but there's lots of other types of degrees as well that, are maybe of interest.
And I know you volunteered early on in your career and ended up finding mentors. You just kind of immerse yourself. So that would be some additional advice. Just immerse yourself in it, and then if it's right for you, and you also you're learning and building your your skills and knowledge while volunteering, or just immersing yourself into that type of business, whether it's through following clinicians, or like you did, you volunteered in the lab and then, really got to see the behind the scenes. So I think people can learn more by being there too.
Absolutely. I think, there's research mentorship, there's clinical mentorship. You'll learn a lot from just, being in the field, doing hands-on work with people with disabilities.
And then if you are the end user, you're living an active seated life, or you're caring for someone, you're a care partner, it's important to seek out experts and tell us a little bit about why they should seek out that expert versus just ordering something, online on their own.
Yeah, I think it's really important to make sure that you're thinking about all the different device options that you may have. You may see something that you're interested in, but there may be other options. And so you should be presented with information about your different options, perhaps given a chance to trial those different options, not only in a clinic setting, but also in a home setting, to see if they really work for you before you make a decision about them. Experts are also going to be able to understand what documentation needs to be done if it's something that would need to be obtained through a funding source like insurance or like vocational rehabilitation. They'll be able to help with that. And just making sure that the device also integrates well into your life. People use so many different devices now that we need to make sure that the devices can communicate with each other, and we can use them as a system throughout our life. And so sometimes we don't think about that. We don't think about Bluetooth capability, or whether the device will connect to your smartphone, and things that may ultimately be really important in terms of whether you can use the device realistically.
Great. We're going to get to questions next. There's a bunch of questions coming in, so that's exciting. But before we do that, any ending words, anything you want to send everybody off with, and then we'll get right to those questions, I promise.
I would just say thank you for your interest. I think the fact that the audience is so broad and so multidisciplinary says a lot about this field. That's the essence of assistive technology. It is of interest, and it is useful for so many different people. And I think working together as a team is what really is the most rewarding part about this field.
Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to jump to those questions, but I just want you to know how important this is, and your time is very valuable. And this has been really great to get to know the process and how things work, and just the vastness of assistive technology. It's really been enlightening. So thank you. Let's get to those questions.
Thank you so much.
So our first question is, what is your favorite project or favorite success story, Dr. Dicianno?
Well, that's a tough question. There's so many things to be excited about. One of my passions and interests is mobile health technologies. That's an area of my research. I'm very interested in how mobile health technologies can support people with disabilities and living in the community and in self-management, so taking care of themselves, especially to target preventable conditions. And we've spent many years developing mobile health systems to support people. And we're at the point now where our research is starting to translate to clinical care, and we're getting ready that we're going to be able to offer some of our mobile health tools to our patients. So it's really exciting when you've spent a long time investing in research and studying something and developing something, and then can ultimately translate it so that it can be used by people. And we're really, really excited about that.
Would that be like a device in their home, or like a mobile device? I'm really asking that.
Oh, by mobile health technologies, I mean like digital tools that people would use through smartphones or tablets. So our system that we've been developing is an app-based system.
And one of our viewers wants to know if there are any resources to assist with clients with autism, pediatric, or adolescent. This is a student, an OTA student. Yay, OTAs. Thinking about doing the assistive equipment specialist So autism and Down syndrome seems to be the area of focus.
That's a great question. So at the UPMC Center for Assistive Technology, which is our outpatient clinic that I mentioned, I would say the target, the most common assistive technology that we provide there for individuals with autism or related conditions are the augmentative and alternative communication devices to assist with communication. So that's speech generation. So it may completely generate all speech or augment speech. But there are lots of other types of assistive technologies that this community might use. You might imagine assistive technologies that are for cognitive aids or education, sensory processing, sensory aids, and even ones for social skills. And those would all be technologies that we will be offering in our new space. So that'll fall outside the scope of what we offer at CAT, but would be technologies that would be offered at the Assist Plus space in our new building.
So if, back to the person asking the question, if you're not local to the area, the Pittsburgh area, look for a place near you that offers, even part of this, and you can, immerse yourself, and you might be the one that brings that to your town later. Maybe a pediatric clinic that you could volunteer in, and you'll learn a little bit about what they use. They may not use everything that we've talked about tonight, but you can specialize in certain areas because they're going to have those clients with those diagnoses. So that would be my recommendation as well with that. And something that came through when something, like, let's say someone's looking for, I'm going to try to summarize this question, but someone's looking for a certain piece of equipment. How do they get maybe more information on how that's worked? So hopefully I'm asking it right, but like, where do they research to find, hey, this certain cup is for this? And yeah, we can find that in a catalog, but is there a place, and there, the answer might be no, but is there a place where you can kind of dig into just this topic of assistive technology?
Yeah, there's not one singular source for that sort of information. So I would say there's a variety of places that you can look. One certainly is from experts or professionals who might have experience with those technologies. So, contacting the clinic to get experts' opinions on their experiences with them. There are some websites, I would say it's more in the realm of wheeled mobility primarily, that has these types of sites, but they are disability community-based organizations that run sites where they have more crowdsourced information and reviews on different products. You can read firsthand how people have felt about using certain products, more of like an Amazon type review that you would see if you were buying other types of products. There are organizations now that are popping up that are more interested in offering, a more comprehensive library or, ability to review different assistive technologies. But I haven't seen one across the board for all, where, one place you can look for all this type of information all in one place. There's also assistive technology centers or loaning libraries. So you might find that certain independent living centers or disability organizations have assistive technology experts sort of embedded in their organization that you can consult, and they'll have like a little room or a clinic or a place that's like outside of a medical center, more of embedded in a community-based organization where you can also trial products and get information.
Great advice. And we'll push it a little further with that, because if somebody's joining us and watching this, they're interested, right? So we're going to challenge them. If there's not something like that in their area, again, maybe you're the one, and your passion's building where you can bring that to your town. So hopefully, also getting a catalog a lot of times is a good starting point, like a tangible catalog. I know as a student, I use that a lot to find out what was out there. And then maybe I'm like, this is great, and then I would need your team to say, but I need it to do this too. So, sometimes you can get a good start by researching and finding the catalog, but sometimes you just need that expertise of somebody. And I love Caligon and all the engineers, because they think of things differently. And with your expertise as a physiatrist and in the rehab and the creating and the research, you can think of it so many different ways. So asking, researching, that would be our best advice for those questions. Great questions, by the way. My last one for you is, I forgot to ask, I can't believe it. What do you do for fun?
Well, this past weekend, I just competed in a sled hockey tournament.
That's
So
interesting.
I do get really interested in adaptive sports. So I work we have some fundraising opportunities with a local sled hockey team where we sponsor, our Rehabilitation Institute helps sponsor a competition between the real sled hockey players who know what they're doing versus the clinicians. And it's a fun event. So we always look for things like that to do in the community, community building activities. I love to travel. I love to read. I love to continuously learn. So those are some of my interests.
Been a common thread with the people we've chosen for our episodes. We want the best of the best, but it's been a common thread of lifelong learning. So you fit right in, right into the crowd. If anybody has any other questions, you can put those in the question box. Very exciting to see the different people, the engineers, the clinicians, the students. I have a great passion for students. So I love that we've had students on tonight. And this topic really is something that we learn about in school, and then you get out there and you're like, okay, well, we talked about that certain device, but I need to find a different way to do it. And it really makes our passion come out when we're working with a client. So I'm really glad that we got to speak with you tonight and learn from you. And we'll be in touch, because someday I'm going to travel and come tour, especially when you open the new place, because this is really great work that you're doing and you're helping so many lives, and we're all about that, and we're passionate about that here at Caligon. So great work, and thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure.
Oh, wait, another question. I love questions. Ooh, what are you excited about with assistive technology within the next 10 years? What do you see coming on the horizon?
Well, I think, we talk a lot about automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning. That's really a hot topic now. I think that we're going to see a lot of automation with advanced technologies and robotics. And I think our real challenge is balancing automation with people's interest in being able to do activities more independently on their own. So we have to balance teaching our technologies to do tasks for us with, being self-directed and controlling those technologies. So for example, we can teach robots to just carry out an entire set of tasks by just pressing a button, right? But people sometimes don't want that. They want to control
Don't want to
the
lose their
robot.
independence. Exactly.
They want to they want the robot to help a little bit, but not do everything for them. So our real challenge is going to be blending, automation with self-direction. And I see that as being a really exciting challenge to overcome.
With barrier-free divers, do you know of any equipment that can help with adaptive diving? And are you aware of any specific medical benefits of adaptive diving? So kind of two questions there.
There are organizations that specialize specifically in adaptive diving. I'm not an expert in that, but if you perhaps you can reach out and contact me, and I can get you in touch with the organizations that work in that specific area. Adaptive diving is very.
If they want to email me, I can be that go-between for you. And then I know, depending on the state, we have a few contacts. So if the person asking that wants to email education@caligon.com, we can get maybe something in your area where you are, and then also the information from Dr. Dicianno to share.
Yeah, and I would say, there's the question about there being medical benefits. I think, the ability to suspend yourself semi-weightlessly in the water, right, is such a therapeutic benefit to many people, especially those with mobility impairments. So for folks interested in that, we really recommend they, explore their options to be able to do that with an expert.
And if you watch Caligon Presents, our on-demand series, you'll see an adaptive diver and all that he goes through and his experience with that too. So that's very cool that that question came up, because we have a whole episode with somebody with experience in that. There's a whole watch group in Austin watching. So thank you all for joining us. And what is the future? I love this question. What is the future of accessibility in tourism, and how can adaptive equipment help? And first, I'll say, while you're thinking of your answer, I'm following on Facebook a gentleman that goes to different cities, countries, and he talks about the accessibility. And I'm learning so much and watching his travels and how much fun he's having, but also how, some cities are really equipped so he can do everything. And then some he has to limit his activities. But the future of accessibility in tourism was the question.
Yeah, so I'll take that in two parts. One part of the answer to that is, we've been exploring at our lab through a large grant through the Department of Transportation, all of the difficulties that people experience during travel. And this could be people with any type of disability, whether it's mobility or cognitive or sensory. We think of travel as the whole entire journey, from the moment that you leave your home to when you arrive at the final destination. And there's so many pieces of that journey. We are very interested in automation and how automated technologies like self-driving vehicles could be designed to help overcome some of the barriers to travel for people with disabilities. Certainly, they need to be accessible, not only physically accessible, but there needs to be ways that people can interact with those technologies and help direct them to where they need to travel to. So that's a whole big area of research that we're really interested in carrying out. We're helping design new ideas for automated technologies to help with travel. And the second part is, I would say, again, with machine learning and artificial intelligence, you can use some of these intelligent systems now to help you plan travel for trips. So some of the new technologies that are out, you can ask them questions like, help me plan a trip to London, and as a wheelchair user. These technologies, once they learn and become better, they will help you identify all of the potential accessibility barriers on that entire trip, from the time you get to your airport to taking local transportation and moving around within the city. They already do a surprisingly good job at it. I think that those technologies will also continue to improve, as they learn from the questions that people are asking them. But I really see travel planning, as an area that's really going to see a big boom in the industry.
And if you add on your mobile monitoring, that could be an extra layer of support, knowing you're traveling, but you're monitoring, blood pressure or whatever you need to be monitoring too. So love the innovation. So the people watching from that watch group are also celebrating, because Callaghan received an award last night.
Congratulations.
So yeah, very exciting. Do you know anything about the medical benefits of staying in your wheelchair on a plane?
Yes, well, that's in actually other types of research that we're carrying out at our lab. We know that people who have to transfer into a wheelchair seat experience a lot of problems, right? The seat can be a high risk for skin injury. We also know that, there are issues just physically accessing the plane, having to give up your wheelchair, potentially having your wheelchair be damaged, during a flight, chronic pain and issues with the physical aspect of actually transferring. So there is talk within the industry to look at more accessible seating for airplanes. It's still kind of research that's developing, but I do see in the future there being hopefully more options for for us to take the typical seat out of an airplane and replace it with more custom seating that will support people better on flights.
Because if you're on the orbiter, for example, and you're comfortable and you you don't want to get off and get into the plane seat, that's for sure. So I
Always
never
always take your pressure relief cushion onto the plane with you, right?
goodness. But I never thought about that. There could be medical benefits of staying in your wheelchair. All right. Great questions. Thank you. All right. So thank you for watching. Again, this will be on demand. And if you haven't gone back to watch the other episodes, please do that. And we'll see you next month for sure. And again, before we got 20 questions, I tried to say goodbye, but I'm so glad that all those questions came in because I'm also a lifelong learner. So I love to learn different things and hear more about your research, things that we didn't cover tonight. So again, thank you, Dr. Dicianno. It's been a pleasure, and we definitely want to have you back.
Thank you. Congratulations to Calagon, and hopefully we'll chat again soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great night.